What's up, Kansas City? I'm Serenity, and today we have General Arnold Gordon-Bray, and to speak with us. What brings you into town, General?
Well, by the time this is shown, it'll be OBE, so that's good. Overcome by events. One of my friends, Judge Russell, is having a surprise birthday party, and so there are other events that are around it, but that was the impetus. I'm also here because of the Army has rolled out its Army University,
Okay.
and it is a way to link all things Army with education-wise with the Army and other educational organizations. And because I work with veterans and I work with organizations that are involved with the Army, it was a way for me to go ahead and improve my understanding of what the Army is doing today. And then lastly, I'm here because we are, there's a collaborative group of people around the country that are looking at ways to help underserved communities collectively put their ideas, their efforts together.
So, like a think tank?
A little more than think tank. It's actually trying to transition communities educationally, job opportunities wise, and then, oh, by the way, bring in some of those support organizations that enable communities to grow in a very positive way. So we're trying to see who's there, what's making it happen, and of course, you have at the core of this, you have places like Benjamin Banneker, which I spoke to this morning, and you have the STEM Academy or STEAM Academy that is part of things that are happening around the country.
And happy Founders Day as well, because we talked a little bit before the interview that you're a member of A5A. So
the Alpha Phi Fraternity
Right.
Incorporated.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and skiwi to you.
Right. All right. Being a general, you've reached the level of excellence in the military. What motivates you? Like, what motivated you to continue and push and strive to reach those heights? And then, of course, before that, kind of tell us what started your military career.
There's an old adage that says, if you're doing something you love, it's not work. Well, I loved playing basketball. I loved, and really more than anything else, I loved the adrenaline flow of competing. And when I found myself in the military actively, I found that it gave me the same kind of a zeal I got when I was playing basketball. So it was very physical. But something else is more important. You know, everyone wants to be appreciated, and they want to matter. Well, as a young when I first started ROTC at Central Missouri State University, I was commissioned as second lieutenant, and as a second lieutenant, from the day I walked through the door, I was in charge of 21 men. And so people listened to me. And so you combine that with your personal passion, and all of a sudden something changes. And you realize that you matter. And all of a sudden you're doing this day in, day out. You're getting up, you're doing physical training every day. And then someone is putting a task on you that you are able to do and master. And by the way, you find out that you're very good at challenges or places where there isn't a clean solution, but you and your team are required to come up with solutions. And and I'm an infantryman, so my life is really built to be around just being physical. But I didn't realize how much was required for innovation. And so I was watching myself transform, become better tomorrow than I was yesterday. And so again, it was almost like walking, one foot in front of the other, and next thing I knew, I walked a mile. And if I could tell you that I was trying to be a general, I'd be lying. I did say if I was going to stay, my target was to be a lieutenant colonel, to be like the guy I first saw when I showed up at Central Missouri. And that was my target. But soon I found myself at different levels of responsibility. I, uh, in fact, I call ROTC not part of a growth model. I call it a teleporter
Mm.
because a person, regardless of your background, if you can go through the development process and commission and become an officer, you're going to be in places where you're going to be someone that people will have to rely on, which they have to rely. And so you may be like I was. I was a captain, and I'm walking into Casper Weinberger's office in 1985 on a no notice to Somalia, Africa, and he's listening to my thoughts and asking me questions. I never imagined that, you know. So if, again, to give you a shorter answer to your short question, I never imagined being a general officer, and I enjoyed what I did every day. And I don't think I worked very hard. It happened, and it happened because I enjoyed it.
So, give a little background to people who aren't familiar with the ranking of the military. How does that work? Where are the general ranks at?
There are two primary tiers in the military. There's enlisted soldier, where a person joins the military, and they are brought in to be a soldier, sailor, airman, or marine. And then, if they're doing well at it, they are then become leaders, and they will be commissioned, albeit non-commissioned, and they'll be called a non-commissioned officer. And that's a grade. That's the enlisted grade. It goes from E1 or enlisted person 1 level to enlisted person 9 level, which is a sergeant's major or senior airman or master gunnery sergeant, depending upon the service. Then you have the officer ranks, where a person comes in and they begin the process to be qualified. And they can do this either one by going to West Point, the nation's premier military academy, or they can go through the Reserve Officers Training Program, which is offered at universities, quality universities across the country. Mine happened to be University of Missouri. And then it goes from 01 to 010. And it's Officer 1, and the Officer 1 is a second lieutenant, often jokingly called a butter bar because that person comes in with
Say that again?
they call it a butter bar because it's yellow.
Oh, okay.
And it's very soft. He doesn't really know what he's doing necessarily in great detail, but he's put in charge of very senior people from the enlisted ranks because he is going to quickly have to elevate. And so he has to be a college graduate because his role in life is not to necessarily be a master per se of military operations, but to be able to take a blank sheet of paper, apply his military knowledge with his academic understanding, and come up with a solution that if he does it right,
Because he is a problem solver.
his enlisted soldiers will make it. We have the best in the world. They will get them to that target. Now there's a couple of middle grades in there, but he goes from second lieutenant to first lieutenant to captain to major to lieutenant colonel to colonel, and then to general. And then general, there's four stars in general, and it goes up to that's the O10. So that's what you're looking at. And when you generals, there are 400 generals, actually 300 and some odd now, that the Army will have out of a 1.4 million man Army. That's what you're going to have. I think, and we're now down to about a 1 million man Army, and Reserve and National Guard and active. And by law, only so many can stay on. So when one comes on, one has to come off before you can make another general, and that's done by Congress and presidential decree.
I saw that you wrote an article about African American presence and leadership in the military. So, did you have any issues with that when you were in the military, or is it just something you decided to research into yourself?
I actually do an article for the Nevada veterans once every three or 4 months, and so they'll give me a topic to solicit my opinion on things that happen. I've done articles on the shootings that have taken place. I've done a couple on the idea of ISIS and ISIL, and most recently on the veterans. I wrote one about veterans and what we fight for. And I thought it was very timely because today there's an awful lot of people who believe that we should treat all Islamists as terrorists. And
That's a generalization.
well, it's worse than generalization. It's not what we fight for. In fact, we fight for the opposite of that, because for this public, just so you know, first of all, ISIS is a spinoff of Al Qaeda, and I'll say this way: it's a spinoff of Al Qaeda. Their allegiance was declared early on in the war that we're in, and so it first started in Syria, and then it went to the Levant. That's what the L stands for: ISIS and ISIL, Islamic State of the Syria and Islamic State of the Levant. And what they're saying is basically that this radical group of Islamists, what they're saying is that the laws of Islam should be the laws of the state. Nothing could be more contrary to our United States beliefs than that. And so when any group in this country asserts our religious beliefs should be intertwined and with the government, then we make a mistake. Now, there are some fundamental rules from the Bibles and from the religious documents of all the major religions in the world that do apply. But they come down to two principles. The first one is that you have a definition of love that you have for your supreme being. That's the first thing. The second rule is that since we really can't define love, to help you understand it, treat some others just like you want to treat yourself. Those
like
are
love my neighbor.
absolutely as thyself, because you understand. So those become two foundational rules. And then, so what I fought for, was the freedom to praise my God in private, however I like, and the freedom from someone telling me how to praise and how I should have to adore my God. Those are the rules. And so I wrote one on that because just to reassert to my veteran brothers, especially those who start to go so far that they think that somehow there is something that they need to do religiously. That's not what soldiers do. Sailors, airmen, or Marines.
And thanks again for your service. My father is a veteran as well. Well, my stepfather is a veteran as well, so I definitely have respect for that. So, just off-topic question: what, since you are a hero yourself, what is your favorite superhero?
It's Batman.
Batman? Why Batman?
Because one is everything he's about is within the art of the possible. He is subject to passions. He is subject to the weaknesses of being a human being. But he puts himself out there every day. And while he has some incredible resources behind him, he can die. And so his
I guess he's a superhero with humility.
His vulnerabilities are really part of his strength. In other words, he is choosing to put himself in harm's way, like the soldiers.
Right.
To put himself in harm's way. It's not, and when others may cower or run away, we run to the fight. You know, I will be lying if I told you that every morning I get up, I like the fact that I don't have to dodge around pillars and see my street sectioned off, or put my body armor on because I'm concerned about what's going to happen. As a matter of fact, I try to fly every year on September 11th on purpose, because that's what terrorists want to do. Terrorists want us to cower. Terrorists want us to forget our way of life. And folks will watch this, and again, there'll be people who sometimes will say, well, you put yourself at risk by doing that. I probably do. And I would tell you right now on this TV, it's just something ever happened to me, for whatever reason. I would tell you, if you ever want to remember who I am, don't cower, don't shut your door, don't lock it, and don't be afraid. Because that's what we have to do. Otherwise, terrorists win.
Go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you very, very much. Like I said, there's a lot of work to be done here in Kansas City and around the world. And what needs to happen for all of us is that we've now got to start to pool our efforts as we go forward to change America, to change
especially in
our,
veteran affairs.
and change our communities. So in fact, you can use veterans because just like your dad gave you certain values or your mom gave you certain values, many of those were incubated in the military and codified in the military and then retaught to us because it's a system. It doesn't belong to any race or religious group. It's just a way for the team to go forward. And there is so much to be learned. And I often tell people that look at the leadership for the March on Washington and Medgar Evers and others. They started with a military background.
Right, that's true.
Because it taught us a lot. I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for spreading the word. I appreciate it.
I'm Serenity, reminding you to spit your piece. If you have any questions or comments, please contact us. And make sure you check out whatsupkansascity.net.